The Roaring Twenties. They were a time of great social and cultural change. The decade of the 1920s included many changes, inventions, and developments which transformed a traditional American society into a modern American one. These developments affected the American life in almost every way. Money was spent on manufactured clothing and home appliances. Products such as electric refrigerators and washing machines allowed for much more leisure time in the American home. Radios also began to play a large role in communication for American people. It allowed people to hear news as it was happening. For many people, new industries and rapidly evolving jobs offer the opportunity to move forwards and upwards in society, a chance not available to their parents. Travel changed perhaps most of all. A largely static population was to be transformed into a mobile one. Automobiles began to play a major role in the American lifestyle as well. By the end of the decade, the U.S. was producing 85% of the world's automobiles, and by 1929, half of all American families owned a car. Flying was another method of transportation which developed in the 1920s. Aeroplanes were still fairly basic, but after Charles Lindbergh's first solo crossing of the Atlantic in 1927, they began to stretch their range and shrink the world. For a time, airships seemed to offer a more luxurious way to travel, until disasters showed them to be unstable and dangerous. Americans also had more time for leisure, which was preoccupied by things such as baseball games, boxing matches, and movies. Celebrities also became a cultural part of society. Sports stars gained massive fame throughout the U.S. One major celebrity of the time was Charles Lindbergh, who became famous internationally for flying a plane across the Atlantic Ocean without stopping. Popular culture in the 1920s was also characterized by innovation in film, visual art, radio, music, dance, fashion, literature, and intellectual movements. With all of these, the Roaring Twenties were a celebration of youth and its culture. New dances such as the Charleston and Lindy Hop became popular. The film industries in Hollywood began to boom, and music was changed by movements such as the Harlem Renaissance. The 1920s were also a period of significant change for women. The 19th Amendment was passed in 1920, giving women the right to vote, and women began to pursue both family life and careers of their own. By the 1920s, many women began to assert their independence and reject the values of the 19th century. Some women began to act rebellious in many ways. This included new fashion statements, hairstyles, and everyday roles in society. During the 1920s, a new ideal emerged, the flapper, an emancipated young woman who embraced the new fashions and urban attitudes of the day. Developments in education also impacted the nation. In 1914, approximately 1 million American students attended high school. By 1926, that number had risen to nearly 4 million, an increase sparked by prosperous times and higher educational standards for industry jobs. High schools in the 1920s also began offering a broad range of courses, such as vocational training for those interested in industrial jobs. Along with education, literature flourished. F. Scott Fitzgerald was able to embody the Jazz Age with The Great Gatsby, and Ernest Hemingway began to publish his own novels which dealt with his experiences in war. Authors such as these made the 1920s one of the richest eras in the country's literary history. As we can see, much of today's popular culture can trace its roots back to the culture of the 1920s. With all its developments and lifestyles, the Roaring Twenties truly were a time of change and prosperity.